These tend to be those special tracks that people remember from a set, and the ones that people are asking for the ID for on YouTube and SoundCloud. Hey guys, Dilby here. I'm in my studio in Berlin. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a super dope video for you, which is a response to one of my viewers. He left a comment asking how Hot Synth 82 creates the dissonant pads, vocal ambience and textures in his tracks. I really like Hot Synth 82's music, and I'm a big fan of his label Knee Deep in Sound, so I thought this was a great idea for a tutorial and something I could really get stuck into. These tracks tend to be moody and deep, but still full of energy, which makes them really versatile for a broad range of DJs. And having a degree of tension and emotion in a track really helps to make it stand out and kind of make a connection with the listener. It also makes it a really useful tool for creating a special moment in a DJ set. These tend to be those special tracks that people remember from a set, and the ones that people are asking for the ID for on YouTube and SoundCloud. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell. That way YouTube will let you know whenever I upload new videos. And if you can drop a like too, that'd be great. It really helps the YouTube algorithm and helps people to find my videos and my channel. Oh yeah, and the track that's playing now, it's a new one from me. It's called Tomahawk, and it's out now on Nick Fanciulli's Saved Records. I'm super pumped about the release, and I'm really happy with the way this track turned out. I'd love to know what you think about it, so let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, let's get into Ableton and get this thing going. Alright guys, so here we are inside Ableton. What I've done is I've prepared a session for this tutorial specifically. So up the top we've got some reference tracks, and these are a couple of tracks from Hot Synth 82 and a couple of other tracks from Knee Deep in Sound that Guilherme mentioned. I hope I'm saying that right, I'm probably butchering it, sorry bro. The new EP from Simon Doty, fucking sick too. Let's have a little listen to these references. He mentioned like this vocal atmosphere that's in the Simon Doty tracks. So we'll listen to the beacon here. So this kind of spooky, haunting vocal atmosphere in the background. And there's also in the other track from Simon, there's a similar kind of sound, a different sound doing a similar thing, also a vocal texture. So I mean those just really work well to fill up the track and also give it a certain vibe. One other sound he mentioned was this pad from Hot Synth 82, The Core, which is a really cool older track from Hot Synth 82. So it's this pitchy kind of pad in the background. It fills out the space in the track. It's not super high frequency, but it's in the kind of upper mids. Yeah, really cool sound. And a couple more things that I've added here as references. Hot Synth 82 Makeup. So this repetitive 16th note synth that kind of really gives a driving vibe to the track. And it does a similar thing to what these other elements are doing in these other tracks. It kind of just adds an intensity. Now something else I thought was quite cool and quite relevant to this idea is this string riser in this track, Hide, from Hot Synth 82's new album. So it kind of rises up and then delays out and has a little pitch bend in there. So those are basically what I'm going to show you how to do. So what I've done is prepared a bit of a beat in this kind of Knee Deep in Sound direction. Don't roast me too bad in the comments. I only spent about half an hour on this, so hope you like it. So let's just have a listen through to what I've done and we can go through and then break down these parts. There's a few little pops and crackles in there, so I apologize about that. My computer's getting a little bit past its best before date, and we're going to have to upgrade. It's having issues running the screen capture software and all that. One thing I will mention is all these loops in here are on my new sample pack, which is coming soon on House of Loop, and it's exclusive to Loop Masters. I'm going to do a video breaking down, showing you a bit more through the pack, and also like how I use loops in my productions and try to use them in a creative way. Small plug here, wasn't my intention, but yeah, anyway, let's go. So the first thing we're going to focus on is this vocal background atmosphere. What I've got is this is playing from Loopcloud, which is a application which connects to your Loopmasters account and allows you to audition samples in real time from your Loopmasters account, and then you can buy them and throw them into your project. It's a similar concept to Splice, but having the VST just makes it integrate seamlessly into my workflow, so I really love it. What I've done here is basically just made a MIDI pattern. So there I've got the MIDI pattern, and it's playing these notes that are half a bar in length. So that's just kind of looping through the vocal, as I feel like it kind of vibes with the track anyway. I'll show you how I'm using Loopcloud in a minute, but first of all I want to just break down the processing here. I'll turn everything off, as we tend to do. Cool, then I've just got an EQ, cutting out some of the lows. An overdrive, which is bringing up a lot of the natural atmosphere already in the sample and kind of pumping up the high frequencies a bit. I noticed in these Simon Doty reference tracks that the atmosphere that he was using, the vocal atmosphere, was quite high frequency based. There's these kind of high bells or triangles or something that also give a bit more high frequency intensity to the track. So then I've got an LFO tool, which is just sidechaining that, giving it a bit of a pump with the kick, and echo, just the Ableton standard device, which helps to add a bit of vibe and create a bit more complexity in the pattern. Then, oh, I didn't have that turned off. Then I've got Valhalla Shimmer, which is like a huge reverb. I'm still using Live 10, but in Live 11 I believe there's like a new effect which has got basically similar to this. It's kind of like a massive reverb. It's got some delay lines in there and some pitching algorithms which kind of just create a real spacious atmosphere. So without it, it's a bit more dry. With it, it really kind of spreads it out into the sides, and it kind of creates this much more atmospheric vibe. Then I'm just EQing out a bit of the unneeded frequencies and adding a bit more sidechain. So with just the bass and the basic beat going, it sounds like this. I mean, it's cool, but it's, just a drum groove and a bass line, so it doesn't really have a lot of character. But as soon as I add in this vocal texture thing, it gives it a lot more groove and a real vibe, a real sense of atmosphere, which is exactly what we're going for here. Now, the way I'd use this when I'm actually writing a track is I'd have this set up exactly like I do here, and then I would use Loopcloud to just browse through samples. I've found this one beforehand, but I'm going to show you now how I'd kind of do that in real time. Play on Ableton. So that one's adding quite a cool vibe. So as you can see, you can kind of go through this just auditioning different vocal samples, and I've already got the processing in place, so it's going to do the same thing. It's just going to change the sound of the texture until I find something that fits with the track that I like. So you can see there how easy it is to just audition different things and get different vibes going on. I really love it. It's really become a big part of my workflow. Alright, so the next bit we're going to talk about is this kind of pitch bending pad that was in the core track. Let's have a listen. Cool, so it's like a really nice, rich sounding pad, and it adds this kind of spooky atmosphere, this dissonant vibe to the track. How that's working is the track is in D minor, and I've got the pad playing an A note. So the reason I have it playing an A is that's a fifth from the root key of the track, so it works really harmonically, but it sounds a little bit, kind of adds a bit more texture. If I put it on to the D here, it also works, but it doesn't add as much drama. I've created that using analog from Ableton, and it's just using a sine wave. So let's go back through, take off the processing as we do, and I'll show you what it sounds like. So that's the raw sound. Now what's happening here is I've got unison and vibrato on that sound. If I turn those off, I've also got a filter with a bit of resonance, so that's just kind of giving it a little peak, making that note stick out a little bit more, making it sound a bit more intense. The unison is adding another voice and detuning it. It has multiple voices playing next to each other, and they're slightly out of tune. And that gives it this wide, kind of expansive, dissonant feeling. And then the vibrato is just taking those and pitching them up and down at the rate I set here on the rate. So 1.6 hertz. So you can hear that's going up and down in pitch. There's also a pitch bend happening on the MIDI here. So I'll delete that pitch bend. Cool. So let's make this a bit more intense. We can make it come up more. So that's how you get that kind of spooky pitching effect. And then all the rest of the processing is just to make it sit in the track more. This is a bit much. So the saturator just adds a bit of grit and a bit of vibe, and kind of also helps to smooth it out a little bit actually. And then I've got an echo with some reverb turned on, quite a lot of reverb turned on, and that's just kind of really helping it to sit in the mix. So that really brings it out wide, spacious, and gives it that reverby, washy kind of feeling to it. I've got an LFO tool doing some sidechain, an EQ here which is set to mid-side mode. So I'm just cutting out the low frequencies and pumping up the sides, and then in the mids what I'm doing is scooping out a bit here where the vocals are going to go so that they don't conflict and cancel each other out or create phasing issues or something like that. And then I've just got a final bit more of more EQ that's helping it to sit in the mix. So you can see that pad there, it's filling up quite a lot of space in the frequency spectrum. Because I've done that EQing, there's room for that vocal to sit in there. Alright, so the next bit we're going to talk about is this 16th note plucks. So I'm just using a one-shot from my sample pack, and I've pitched that up by 12 semitones to make it more high frequency. If I pitch it down, turn off the processing again. So for this kind of sound, you can use anything. You could use a synth, you could use a sample, just make sure it's in key and pitch it up, do whatever you want, get crazy with it. That's always my recommendation. Get crazy with it. So I've pitched it up, it's sounding a bit. In the sampler here, I've got it randomly panning 22%, so that's why it kind of sounds like it's a bit on the sides. So that's quite cool, and it sits in the track quite well. But when I was doing this, I was trying things out, and I threw on this frequency shifter, which just made it sound quite cool and a little bit more unique. So that's just using an LFO to move the frequency around, and it's got this spread control here which is shifting out into the sides, and that's got 71% of the wet signal, so it's still got some of that more high-pitched dry signal. Alright, and then what I'm doing here is, as it's coming into this breakdown, I'm reducing the wet signal, which is actually making the sound come back to the higher pitch, and this is increasing the intensity into that breakdown. Now Hot Synth 82 tends to use these kind of things a lot in his track. It might be like a clave, it might be like a rim shot, or a tambourine, a triangle, a kind of high vocal sample, a string hit, lots of different things in lots of different tracks, but it's kind of a reoccurring theme, and it really helps to add intensity and also add a vibe. So I mean, you can just go through a bunch of presets on whatever your favorite synth, tweak them, play them higher, make them shorter. A really important part for the sound design here is this LFO tool, which, as you can see from the curve here, it's playing 16th notes, so the first two 16th notes are here and the second two are here. So what's happening is these two are playing at full volume, these two are being ducked. So that's what's giving it this like rhythmic pumping kind of effect. Without the LFO tool, it sounds a bit kind of over the top and doesn't really sit that well on the track. So you can see when I turn on that LFO tool and it starts to sidechain, it really kind of sits back into the track and has space for all the other elements rather than just being super in your face. But it's still, because of the but because it's in the high frequency range and it's playing a really fast intensity, then it still really picks up the energy in the track and creates an intense moment. You can also do that without the LFO tool if you go into the MIDI and just change the velocity on these first couple of notes. So that's got a similar vibe, but I prefer the more smooth volume automation of the LFO tool. It just kind of adds a little bit more groove into my ears. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is this string riser. It's really simple. I've just got a string sample here. You could use a pad sound from a VST, anything really. Just play it in a higher key, then it's going to sound more high pitch. I've got this attack set quite high. So it takes a while for the volume to automate up. Then in the MIDI again, I've got a pitch bend happening. So that pitch bend is happening right here. And what's happening at that point, I've created some automation that's sending to a delay. So that kind of moment where the pitch bend happens is then getting sent to the delay, which makes it ring out in a more atmospheric kind of way, which adds to the atmosphere and the intensity. In the context of the track, now the processing I've got on that is just a bit of overdrive, and I'm using the EQ in the overdrive to just really focus in on the high frequencies. So that really kind of makes it a bit more intense and a bit more almost harsh really. So with that harshness, if you put it too loud at high volume, that's going to just really kill people's ears. So you want to be careful with that kind of sound. Then I'm using the old faithful Tel Chorus LX, one of my top 5 free plugins. I'll link that video if you want to check it out. So that just kind of adds a bit more width and space, helps the effect to sit in the sides while the bass and other things are in the middle of the mix. And then I've got this EQ here, which is helping to focus it around, I think around here. Yeah, so there's also a high string playing, and also these shakers. So you can see they're kind of taking up quite a lot of space in the really high frequency spectrum. So we just want this to be leaving room for those elements. So one thing I really noticed when I was referencing a bunch of the Hodgson's 82 tracks, I listened to a lot of his back catalogue, and I noticed a theme in there that basically it'll be a chunky driving beat, a solid bass line, maybe some quite simple melodic elements, and kind of layers of high frequency atmosphere and pads happening, using different textures and different placement in the panorama to really create this intense encapsulating vibe. While it is kind of simple when you break it down, it's actually quite unique, and it creates quite a distinct sound. I would say that Knee Deep in Sound as a label definitely have their own sound, as does Hodgson's 82, and a lot of it comes down to the use of pads and strings and different elements in those kind of higher frequencies. So keep that in mind when you're writing. You want to leave space for the drum groove and really kind of focus the energy in those high frequencies. So there we have it. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight and understanding about some things that you can use to add some tension and depth and atmosphere into your tracks. You can probably imagine these techniques are also super versatile and can be used in genres like progressive house, melodic house and techno, Afro house, and basically all types of like underground house and techno. So I recommend you get into your DAW and get creative. Try to use these things in your own unique and interesting way. Take what I've shown you and kind of run with it, progress a little bit and make them your own. If you got something from this video, then hit the like button. It lets me know that the content that I'm making is resonating with you guys. Oh yeah, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's @DilbyDJ. I'm really active on there. I'm posting most days about my upcoming releases, music, all sorts of things. I'm really active in my DMs and I love hearing from you guys, so make sure you hit me up. Anyway, that's it from me today. Good luck with your productions. We'll catch you soon. Peace!